you can do your job as the face.
The face.
Face! Do it, face.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is time for a little talk on the Errata, a little drop in a little special report action on you. Of course, it wouldn't be a special report if we didn't have a guest star, so we dragged Greg out of his dungeon of doom where he writes all of his memes all day long. As the Redditors seem to think that's what he does. And of course, I have my two co-hosts, no other than PG Semi-Auto Magic and Maelstrom.
Hey.
So, guys, it's the first errata, the very first of Mark III. It's July 2016, and let's overall impressions. We've all had a chance to read through it quickly.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling.
Everything is horrible except I'm kind of digging the new Sloan feat now that it's actually the Sloan feat.
Overall, it's a lot of stuff that I would have expected. Fixes to gang and disruption. What are those? Oh, Heart Eater is one of the ones that was sort of tackled as well. The only thing that kind of surprised me was the assault change. That was the only one that kind of wasn't talked about. But overall, just tackling a lot of stuff that they already kind of mentioned within the privateer forum and stuff like that, making it official.
Just doing my cursory glance, yeah, I think the assault change is the one thing I spotted on here that I didn't sort of know was coming. We'll go through the sort of the basics with everybody, but I think most of this is typos and small error fixes and English errors, if that makes sense. Sure. Things where people found one rule that didn't relate to another, so they've just fixed a lot of it. As for the Sloan feat, I was hoping they would make her a little bit worse, but so far it's not like Signar is winning every tournament matchup out there, so can't be that good, let's just say. Maelstrom, you finally get to join us for a special report, buddy.
I do. It's super fantastic.
Any thoughts or feelings on this here errata so far?
Looks pretty meh so far.
All right. So let's start right at the top. We knew that there was a change coming to disruption and critical disruption. Because it had been leaked by Privateer Press that there would be a change to critical disruption and disruption. The basic change overall, for anybody who doesn't know, is up until now, if you followed the letter of the Mark III books, disruption worked like any other effect, where it could be basically gotten rid of at the top of round one, at the beginning of your turn.
It could
by
be
rolling a 1 or a 2,
like other effects,
or you could shake it. Yeah. Now you
Take it
cannot. So let's just quickly, PG, how do you feel about that change? That kind of affects you as a Signar player the most.
Well, it's fine. Like, as a change, it was kind of what we expected. Basically, disruption going back to, the way it was originally. I don't think disruption is too horribly broken, though. God, it feels horrible to be on the downside of that when it's coming at you.
Especially as a COC player. I actually did like the way disruption was playing in Mark III. I'm not super happy that they made this change. I thought that it kind of put disruption in line with the rest of the effects, which was good, but then it also kind of made it useless as well, because the only time you ever used it against it was a jack, so it just became sort of a focus suck. Greg, any thoughts on those changes?
I think one of the things they might have also cleared up was the fact that you can't gain focus by allocation as well. I think the wording on disruption says you cannot gain focus, and so they're just saying allocation also counts as that. No focus, period. So it's good that they tidied that up a bit.
Maelstrom?
Yeah.
He plays hordes.
Good.
What does he know?
All right, so charge has just been sort of tweaked slightly. It now says if a charging model ends its charge movement without a charged target in its melee range, it has a failed charge. Any comments, guys? I think that's just a clarification.
There was a wording change from engaging. So they weren't engaging, and knockdown models and stationary models can't engage and stuff. So
right. So we had this whole problem where you would charge a knockdown model and fail your charge because they were knocked down.
Because you couldn't engage them, yeah.
Which made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that fixes that. That's good, because we've heard a lot of bitching about that going around. Throw. So if the distance between the thrown model and the model it's being thrown at is beyond the throw distance, the point of impact is the point along the line of the thrown model to the model that's being thrown at equal to the thrown distance. So basically they're saying you can't throw farther than your throw.
Yeah.
Because the argument before was but it doesn't say that if I target a dude who's out of my range, I can't hit that dude. So that just kind of clears that up. Trample is sort of the same type of deal, but it has to do with getting into the back arc. So people were using the trample rules, and because of the way the new trample rules work, or because of the way the new back arc rules work, you could get into a person's back arc by trampling. So this is just clarifying when the damage happens to the trampled model. Good rule clarification there. PG semi-auto magic.
Yeah, it was obviously unintended consequences. It was one of these things where the timing on when you were going to do the damage really made a huge difference. Because as it was, you were waiting for the model to be in your back arc, and then it was getting the back arc bonus before making the attack. And now they make sure that basically the trample attacks are all coming from the trampling model instead.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this one's something a little closer, near and dear to Greg's heart, concealment and cover. In order to benefit from concealment or cover, the target model must be within 1 inch of the terrain feature along at least one straight line between it and the attacker. Clarification, what's the sort of change there?
It's sort of an addendum, because the way it was written before, you could get that concealment or that cover benefit from melee attacks, but if you were more than 1 inch away from the obstruction, but the line of sight was somehow crossing that obstruction, even if you were like 1.5 inches behind it or something like that. Now you have to be close enough 1 inch to benefit from that, so that's good.
All right, so assault is the change that we've been talking about here as being sort of the one thing that kind of was a bit of a curveball for us. So we're replacing the third sentence of assault text with the following: a model that begins its charge in melee cannot make an assault ranged attack as part of that charge, and a model can make an assault ranged attack while in melee. So, tell me about that. That was a curveball for us, Greg. So tell us about what the change is.
It was a little bit. I didn't know they were going to kind of take that jank away, like fire eaters or something like that. You could target, if you could be engaged with, say, a screen, and you could target a jack or something like that you could see past that screen, and you could still make your spray attack. You'd fail your charge, but you really wanted to make the spray attack on the warjack or the caster or something like that. They've now taken that away. If you're engaged in melee, you don't get a spray attack. And the second part, a model can make an assault ranged attack while in melee. That's basically just saying, if you satisfied the first one where you weren't engaged in melee and you made an assault attack and you got into melee, you can still make your assault attack on the charge target.
Gotcha.
So it's nice and cleaned up, but less jank.
Yeah, it used to be quite common for me to put, when I was playing Legion, to put the Ogren into, the Blighted Ogren into combat with their screen, just so that I could kill whatever's behind the screen. Because you could make that assault shot on casters, heavies, anything you wanted. And since it was your prey with the Ogrens, then it was just all about the killing.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it's kind of good that they took that away, so now you have some control over the table positioning. You're not just like, engage them. They can still shoot the important stuff. So that's good.
AoE attacks replace the last sentence of the first section with the following: damage rolls resulting from AoEs are simultaneous. Yet again, just another clarification, because there was some argument going on as to whether it was a simultaneous effect or not. And of course, that's really important because AoEs go off, and if you have something along the lines of sacrificial pawn or something along those lines, then if they're not simultaneous, then you have to worry about whether you can do that after the first attack or not.
Yeah.
Damage type magical, so damage from spells is magical damage. So that was really up for discussion a lot, because suddenly magic spells may or may not have been, and I think there were even some rulings against certain spells being magical damage or not. Kind of needed to happen.
There's some things that get kind of weird, like chain lightning or whatever, something that has like some sort of ancillary ability on top of that. Is that attack also magical? But yeah.
So, Maelstrom, you spend a lot more time throwing magical spells at everybody than anybody else. Did you find it a problem in third while you were playing?
No, I didn't find it a problem really. It's a magical attack. It's magic. It's magical damage.
My guess is that a lot of us from Mark II were playing it this way anyway, without really looking deeply into that actual word.
Yeah, most of us just didn't notice.
I never played deep into it enough that it would become an issue of whether it's a magical attack or not. I just assume it is, so.
I think most people would make that assumption.
unless you're one of those guys that spends their whole day
Shit
poring
about it.
over a rule book like this, trying to find that one bit of jank so that you can win a game.
Yeah.
All right, so Warcaster Destruction. When a model in the battle group commander's special rule is destroyed or removed from the table, the Warjacks in its battle group become inert. Additionally, all upkeep spells by that model expire. That's just a clarification. We've
Your
deleted
juniors models don't stay around forever.
exactly. Deleting the disruption and critical disruption entries and continuous effects, just clarifying once again that they are not continuous effects anymore and are not taken care of by the continuous effect rule. Hill,
I
model
love this
moving
one.
off.
This one makes me laugh.
A model moving off a hill does not fall or suffer falling damage, so that
You can walk off the hill. It's okay.
I think that may have just been an error by omission that somebody was like, but what about this?
Well, some terrain pieces are like hills that are like an inch tall or something like that. So I can see somebody making an argument. But
Obstacles, they're just making sure that this is just an addition to the slam or throw because it's not repeated again in the obstacle section, that when you're slammed or thrown against, you take extra damage. But when resolving, remember to add an additional die to the damage roll when slammed or thrown if you contact an obstacle. The same for obstruction. So that's pretty much just another clarification, making sure that the rule books read properly. Burning Earth. I'm not sure even what the change is here because I think that's how we played it before, which is on a one or two.
I think there might.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, George.
I was going to say the actual wording was that the forest just evaporated and disappeared.
Yeah.
Now the fire just goes out and leaves a forest.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So they were deleted quick work from the tactical tips, I think because they got it wrong in the tactical tips.
They sure did.
Yeah, they did.
Attack roll, add the following to the end of step E. When returning to step B, add all dice removed. In step C, back to the roll. I have no idea. Probably just
I believe that's the actual wording that when you're doing a reroll, you actually have to use all the same dice that you used when you made the original roll.
Oh, you
And
can't
I think
switch
that's fixing it back in. No, it's so that you don't end up with the thing where I rolled 3 dice to hit you, but I'm only rolling 2 dice to hit myself.
Gotcha. All right, healing. In the first sentence, change control area to control range.
Terminology.
Yep, just terminology. Threshold and Frenzy. It makes one basic attack against the model at charge with the highest power weapon that it has in its has range to the target. And a frenzied warbeast cannot make an assault, range attack, or additional attacks. And Reddit, how can you not like this guy?
I have a frenzying warbeast here.
What you don't know is that's actually dinner. It's all right. So the threshold and frenzy clarification. Was there anything in the original rules that I think it was that people thought you could do an assault, right?
Yeah, they thought you could do an assault if you made a successful charge, and I think adding the highest POW weapon had been somehow removed during the transition from Mark II to Mark III.
Well, wasn't one of the problems that it just said make an attack with their highest POW weapon, and it didn't matter whether it was in reach? So theoretically, if you had a beast charge and it had a reach weapon that was lower POW than its bite, it wouldn't make an attack because it would try and attack with its highest POW weapon. It wasn't in range, and it would fail.
Yeah, absolutely. George is right there.
All right, so moving right along. Damage and healing. Just another clarification. Instead of damage spirals, they added life spirals, so that's just clarifying the difference between the two.
The digest changes are basically all the same. It's just different pages and everything. It's one of the interesting things. People who are used to other games' erratas will realize that even though this errata document is 13 pages, it's not really 13 pages. It's the same ruling being applied over and over again every time it appears. So,
pretty much.
So, for example, like the regular book and the mini book are both in here.
Yeah, it's pretty much that until we get to the actual model erratas, and we'll run through some of the highlights quickly. They've just cleaned up True Sight again with Kane. Trick Shot, if this attack directly hits, choose another model within 4 inches of the model hit. I think that's to stop you from being able to... another is the word that's important here. Because up until now, you could hit a dude and have the bullet hit him a second time.
Yes, that's what people were doing, yeah.
Kara Sloan, arguably the meanest feat in the game right now, she's been not necessarily tempered. She's been tempered enough that we cannot get a top of 1 kill, which was basically up until now you could run all your jacks up, and Sloan could feat. All your jacks could get to do all of their stuff after running, and that was the big problem. George, you've argued, and several other people have argued that this is a buff, not a nerf. Basically, you're saying it's mainly because the order of operations has been taken away.
Yeah, it's actually, I wouldn't say it's straight up a nerf. I think this is a sideways move. The earlier feat was really great for things like he's thrown up a wall of trees, and then you could run into the trees and then feat for the extra shots to at least have some kind of attack. But what this does is lower her skill cap. Because
Gotcha.
Before you really had to work at, okay, I got to make sure everything's in place before Kara goes. And quite often, the place that Kara wanted to be is also the place where Jack wants to be. So you couldn't have Kara go up, make her shots, fade back. Whereas now she moves forward, takes her 3 shots, refuges back, and then another Jack steps in front of her, shoots, and then is there to block line of sight and maybe be a shield guard if for some reason you took 20 points of triumph in your list.
Yeah, we can skip through most of the rest of the changes to models because a lot of it has to do with true sight.
And
This is where we come into the next big change, which is the flank and gang rules are going to be reiterated over and over and over again through this document. The changes to flank and gang are, they're clarifications on what the original intent was. The original intent was flank and gang were supposed to work for melee attacks. But because they left the word melee out, people were using flank and gang to get bonuses to their ranged attacks as well. We all knew this was coming because it made 0 sense. But how is there any sort of fallout? Like, will there be any models that are, nerfed because of this change? Anybody?
Something else the change kind of addressed was the whole charge sort of thing where the target has to be in the melee range. Before it also said engaged with gang and flank. And so you can get gang and flank bonuses on knockdown and stationary models now.
Which we also knew was coming because, well, that just didn't make any sense either. And that was pretty big bone of contention with a few people.
Yeah.
All right, so moving right along. Unfortunately, I don't think any of us are solid Menoth players, so we can't really comment as to the changes in the Menoth stuff. But
adding the shield icon to the devout card makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
it's kind of legit.
Yeah.
Kador, any big changes in Kador that we've seen, guys, that make any... I mean, there's, again, a bunch of true sight and some flanking and ganging changes.
Karchev now has a range on his fist. That's nice.
I didn't even know he had an open fist. Did he throw stuff? That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of the biggest thing that I see here quickly.
They did make a quick fix on Rusk's feet. It doesn't stand up models that have already been knocked down that turn, so it just prevents you from throwing something, feeding to stand it back up.
Yeah, and for players that don't understand why that change needed to be made, is that allowed for certain amounts of movement jank that weren't good for the game. It allowed you to throw models into back arcs. It allowed you to which just, again, you should not be able to pick up your own dudes and throw them across the field in order to get an assassination. You should,
The classic problem was the dwarven fastball, because there's a strength buff to an already strong jack. They could pick up a steady dwarf and fire the caster down the field, and then it doesn't matter that you only have a control radius of 10 inches if you're up an extra 10 inches.
Yeah. We can have people on the chat comment on some of the Crix Menoth changes. Is there anything anybody sort of skimmed over that seemed interesting, giant changes? A lot of these, again, are just rule clarifications carrying forward.
Yeah, a lot of them are stopping, a lot of the Crix stuff seems to be stopping Crix from shifting away damage that they had to take because of spells.
Right.
It looks like they're saying, no, you don't get to shift this damage if you brought an extra focus to the party. You got to take that damage.
Right.
Yeah.
Rhett's not getting a ton of changes either. Rhett's getting a lot of true sight and flank changes.
Sorry,
you mentioned something else about Crix?
Yes,
absolutely.
the malice changed to possession. You can no longer possess warlocks and warcasters, which I think is sad. That would be fun. Makes sense.
Mercs are probably most hit by the flank and gang problems, so this is just going to fix sort of where their issues were and put them in line with what they should be playing, how they should be played.
Something that PG Semi-Automatic might like is they fixed the TEP, the servitor salidates, can now be placed. They couldn't be placed before.
Oh yeah,
there's actually a lot.
They're going to let you play with your toys now.
Yeah, a lot of really good convergence changes. Aurora now works again. Because flank is back.
Yeah.
Father Lucan's feet stopped being for the rest of the game, which was good. As much as it was awesome to have, obviously not as intended.
No.
Monitor's true sight is the same as everybody else's true sight. The Enigma Foundry and the TEP now works again because that was really problematic. Interestingly, the servitors are now in base to base. They weren't in Mark II.
No.
And that's actually a big change because occasionally you can't put a model in base to base with your battle engine if it's surrounded.
Yeah.
And that can actually stop you from dropping your servitors, which can be a big problem. Or you just end up with 87 attacks because all the servitors are in the back arc.
All right, so moving right along, again, I don't see any giant changes that are game-changing other than some rule clarifications for mercs.
They're mostly melee stuff.
Alexia's change is pretty substantial in a way. Before, the wording kind of indicated that she could sack Risen to make additional ranged attacks.
Right,
She can no longer do that. It has to be melee attacks. So.
Again, we knew that one was coming because it made zero sense. She could basically one-shot take down a caster by herself.
Shoot off an entire unit.
Yeah. Moving right along.
Piper got the model unit back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it's a warrior model unit, yeah. So you can no longer give Pathfinder to Jax.
Boo.
All right, so Trollbloods, did they do anything to sort of address it's Madrak 2, right? That was like ridiculous right now. I did not get a chance to read this one yet, so
I don't think so. It says if this model this is under Madrak Ironhide Worldender Grim Salvation. If this model is directly hit by a basic attack, it's a basic attack now. So that's probably the big change.
Right.
Made by an enemy model, choose a friendly non-incorporeal warrior model within 3 inches to be directly hit instead. So you can ask yourself, what is a basic attack and what is not a basic attack? So it doesn't work against spells for one thing. Doesn't work against power attack damage rolls, that type of thing. Sorry, what was that?
Or special attacks, yeah.
or star attacks, yeah, exactly. So you can throw him out of the way where there's nobody around him and then shoot him or something like that. Or because that'd be kind of weird. You target him with a two-handed throw and then you actually throw this dude over here instead. That's weird.
Yeah. But now he can be threshed, he can be thrown, he can be slammed. All of the wonderful things that you want to do to kill a caster that you couldn't do before.
They've removed Gunfighter from the Mountain King.
Yeah, no, he was too OP, so had to tone him back a bit.
Phrases I thought I would never hear.
There is something to say about like 10-inch sprays that
you could just do all the time.
You can just use even if you're in melee. I don't know, but I guess wait, does Gunfighter not even matter because Colossal?
No, it doesn't matter because
you can use the gun anyway.
So you just get to use it.
It was just kind of like not needed.
I think the reason is that couldn't you use, if you have Gunfighter, couldn't you charge with that spray if you wanted to?
Doesn't he have assault?
I believe he still has
assault.
Oh,
he has an assault, so never mind. Yeah.
I think it may have been along the lines that if you had something that gave everybody a bonus attack, you could use your spray instead because he can now use it as a melee weapon. Who knows?
Okay.
It probably was not there as intended originally. Moving right along. Okay, Greg, talk about Circle. I'll just let you go, man.
The big changes are flank, gang, and they changed Heart Eater so that you only get it off of enemy models now, which we knew was coming, and it only generates one corpse token. World Guardian lost Sturdy, which they said they're going to do, and Megalith, they just tidied it up, and they had a restoration instead of mend in his healing ability thing, so now it's mend, so the World Wardens can heal 2 points if they're base-to-base with him, and that's pretty much it.
Losing Sturdy from the World Guardian, that's kind of a rough one, though, isn't it?
No, it's just so he works with Bradigus because Sturdy stops his push from his feet. So
Gotcha.
Circle players will take that, so they can actually use them.
All right. Finally, or not finally, almost finally, Scorn. Any thoughts or feelings on the Scorn changes, guys?
Almost all of them are things that we've already talked about. Flank, things going from anything to warrior model unit. So far it seems to be a lot of cleanup stuff.
Yeah, there's also the Praetorian officer in Standard now has FA Unlimited like every other officer in Standard. They weren't the only ones in game without it.
So now Scorn has nothing to complain about.
Yeah, exactly. Scorn OP now. Okay, and Legion going to the one and only Maelstrom. Any screams of anger for Legion?
No, it's basically just a lot of gang and flank stuff, really. They fixed the wording on the deceptively mobile on the Archangel because people were bitching that it couldn't move because it was a gargantuan, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it can. They put it on the goddamn card. So, yeah, it's just a matter of flank and stuff mostly.
All right, last but not
They
least.
changed Saren's Blightburn to an offensive spell, which it was anyway. So, yeah. Just wording, clarifications and stuff.
I'll point it out because Typhon's on the screen right now, but both Typhon and the Hydra got the multiple heads cleanup.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, last but not least, we got some minions changes. Crippling Grasp can only be used once per activation now. That's nice.
It's an upkeep spell anyways, so I mean, normally you don't cast it more than once, but I guess if you... Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that one, but there for some reason, I guess.
Other than that, they've allowed Trollbloods. Croak Raiders is no longer has 3 L's in Trollbloods. That was a really important change. I feel that may overpower Croak Raiders a little bit.
Trollbloods.
All right. And that's basically it, ladies and gentlemen. We're kind of run through them. If you've got some things that you noticed, some new changes, we just quickly skimmed through this and sort of gave you our thoughts. If you find some more interesting tidbits along the way, feel free to post it to our Facebook page, and we'll shout out about it on this week's podcast. Greg, what's going on with Party Foul? What are you guys up to in the near future?
We're on a little bit of a summer hiatus because families around and stuff like that. So we're trying to get some videos done. We want to get a whole new batch of videos done for Mark III business, like power attacks and that type of thing. But it may have to wait to the fall. And we also have a narrative campaign that we're trying to get going, but that's probably going to have to wait to the fall as well, just with us being busy.
And, of course, if you are part of the Ottawa Gatineau Meta, we have the biggest event going ever tonight. Ever. The biggest event ever. The Borka the Keg Slayer party at the Barley Mow. Free beer for all of those who show up. So if you're watching the podcast right now and you have a way to get to Elmont, Ontario, to the Barley Mow, games, food, and free beer. Nobody ever gives away free beer. That's just insane.
I'm tempted to get in my car right now and drive the 4 hours.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can kind of wrap that up. It was a huge errata document, and we were waiting for it, but I think we all kind of agree there was nothing groundbreaking here. It was just sort of making the game tick over a little bit better because of the misunderstandings that were out there. Any last words there, George?
There was no changes to the way gun bunnies operate, so I'm in the market for about 10 more gun bunnies if someone has some boxes laying around.
Send George your gun bunnies, everybody. No, don't.
I don't have any. I don't know what you're talking about.
You've got till probably like December or something when they drop.
Well, I wanted to wait for this errata to come out, so I knew I could play them for at least 6 months before putting them on a shelf.
Maelstrom, any thoughts? Last final words? You're going to be at the game tonight. You're looking for a 75-point game. You're not doing this battle box crap.
No, I don't want to do the battle box. I want 75 points.
Well, I figure I'm gonna grab my big old white Convergence models and slap you around with them a little bit.
Then he'll want battle box games after that. He'll be like,
Yeah, that's probably...
I feel so dirty. All right, guys, I think that'll be it for our special report. Thank you so much for joining us here on the stream. We will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.